Craig and Lori, welcome to the Leaders Lab. How are you guys?
We're great.
Lovely, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks
It's so
for
funny
having
to
us.
see you guys on Zoom, like we're all official here. As I said in the intro, I've known these guys for a very long time. Lori, it's been 30 plus years. Craig, 22 at least, I think now. Um, just to give our audience some background, and I'll start with Craig. Tell us just a little bit about your background. Like, where were you born? Where did you grow up? You guys obviously reside in Nevada County in Grass Valley, California. But Craig, for you, where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was life like pre-Lori?
Um, Born in San Diego,
Okay.
and lived there till I was 7. Moved to town we live in now at 7, which is a bit of a culture shock. I was into skateboarding and all that, and moved to a town with no sidewalks and the like the hills.
Right.
Lived here through high school, and then traveled a bunch. Moved a whole bunch in my 20s, and like 18 times and or 16 times in 8 years to 5 different states. And
Were you
um,
just trying to see the world, or what was in that for you? What were you
a
after?
lot of chasing dreams and trying to figure out, like, get to a point, get stuck. Okay, now where else could I go that seemed like, okay, that could be it. That could be my break. I went to culinary school, did that, traveled around for a bit. And then was even signed up for acupuncture school, and decided to bag out on that.
What brought you back ultimately to your hometown?
Um, I was actually driving over. There's a pass, the Donner Pass here, on my way back home to San Diego, and I had this epiphany of like, wow, this is as beautiful as any place I've been, in all those different states. And my mom lives here, my grandma lives here, my sister, like why, you know, the kind of this is it. So it's a great place to be. It's kind of a nice balance in a lot of regards.
Cool. And so, how old were you when you got back?
The last time 31.
Okay. And Lori, for you, you were born and raised, right?
No, actually, I was born in the Bay Area,
Okay.
and then my family moved when I was younger to Idaho for we lived in Boise for 5 years, and then again the family was drawn back to be closer to family, and we moved here back to Nevada County, well, to Nevada County for the first time in 1979. So I've never left. I've been here since 1979. So
Wow. And so I know, obviously, I know parts of your story, not all of it, most of it. Um, we were in this group of friends. I'm a few years older than Lori, so she was more friends with my wife, but a whole bunch of couples that got married really young. Like Shannon was a week out of high school, 17 years old, when we got married, and everybody told us we were idiots, and it apparently has worked out okay, So, but you got married really young too, yeah?
I was 19 and Drew, my first husband, was 21. So yeah, we were young too.
Okay, and so you and Drew get married. You're 21. What's life like? Like, what are you guys doing for work? What do you guys have kids right away? What does that look like?
Yeah, we Bailey was our first. She was born right away, and he was working at a sporting goods store at first, and then I was a dental assistant for 22 years actually, through our whole marriage. And his dad was a dentist, so I started there. And then he left Mark Sports, was the sporting goods store that he was at, and got a job when UPS opened a hub in Nevada County. And so he and a bunch of his buddies got a job there, and they were the first UPS drivers in Nevada County. He was going to college at the same time, so we were still, like going to school and raising a family
Sure.
and working our tails off.
I
So
remember you always had your like side hustles going on back then too,
for
right? You had like
sure.
photography, you had your knickknacks. Like, what
Mhm.
were some of those things?
All the like the multi what do they call them, the
Oh,
multi-level.
multi-level marketing
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You always try stuff on the side,
Yeah.
we were young. I think I'm trying to think of some of the things we did. Creative memories. We did the
Hmm.
scrapbooking, and we would do that after work, and I'd have friends over, and we'd all do that. So we did a little side hustles for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I always remember Shannon going to like Lori living room parties of something, I'd be like,
selling
what,
something.
yeah, what's the next thing Lori's
I've
selling?
I've been a hustler since I was 15 years old. I've had a job since I was 15. I don't know if you remember, but O. Henry's Donuts down by Lake Wildwood was my very first job
Okay.
down there. Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. So you and Drew are young. You're raising these girls. Because you're second. Bailey and
Bailey and Blake.
Blake are what, about 3 years apart? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, and side note on this story, when Lori's oldest was about 3 or 4, our daughters met and became best friends and still are to this day. And now they have kids of their own. Um, so life goes on. You guys is struggling a fair word, or at least kind of grinding it out, right? Like in your
Grinding it out
20s.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Grinding it out in our 20s.
Okay.
Sure.
And so talk to us a little bit about what happens next, kind of, with Drew and with life,
Mhm. Well, I would say, yeah, grinding it out,
Yeah.
the 9 to 5, kids to school, home, ballet, dance, cheer,
Yeah.
doing all the things. And Drew was working and going to school, trying to get his degree in computer science. And he was, again, driving for UPS, and I was still dental assisting and doing I had a photography business on the side as well. And he was working, and easiest way to say, a guy on meth stole a tile truck in our town and ran head on into Drew's UPS truck and killed him.
It's all good.
The girls were 10 and 13. Sorry.
No,
Sometimes it's super easy to talk about, and other times it's like, whoa, where'd that come from?
I completely understand.
As the girls now are 30 and 33, so it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, he passed away. They were 10 and 13, and we were again grinding it out. We bought a house and we were remodeling it at the time, and we were doing it just on weekends and after work. And so at the time, I had no countertops. My floors were ripped out, and I was like, not only am I like, what am I doing here?
Right.
I have these 2 girls to raise. My husband just passed. My house is torn up. I'm like, what the hell? And we live in a small town, as you know.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge, I love community. I love building relationships.
Sure.
And I think that that got us through where we are today, for sure. The community just kind of rallied around. It was a big story in our town. It was Drew was very well known, and his parents were well known, and he was so likable, and everybody wanted to help us. So it was very humbling.
And to give the audience kind of an idea, so Nevada County, California as a whole, I'm probably misquoting this, but there's probably, maybe not Nevada County as a whole, but the greater surrounding area has maybe 25, 30,000 people, but Grass Valley, Nevada City, which are the 2 towns, collectively have maybe 10,000. And back then it was even smaller because it's grown since then, right? So this is pretty small. I mean, we had a big high school because it was drawing from all areas, but stuff like this made the news. It wasn't like, like now I live near New York, and, you wouldn't even find that story, right? Unless you knew the family or something. But there it's like in our local paper, like front page kind of stuff, and everybody knows what's going on. And like you said, I mean, I think in moments of grief or tragedy, it's like having a big family, like giving you a big warm hug. But what happens next, right, is a little while after you meet Craig, and what's that like, Craig? I mean, because I felt like that our community, and I love it, but I also felt like it was a fishbowl, which could be great, and at times it'd be nice if you could flip it on and off, right, and be like, oh, I'd love everybody to know my business, except not right now, right, and so for all the caring and concern that they had around Drew dying, they probably expressed that same caring and concern over you dating, right?
Well,
And
there were lots of eyes on us or on me.
sure,
Yeah, I mean, that first summer, I remember the girls and I just wanted to be out of town. I
right,
wanted nobody to know my name and not look at me different in the grocery store and, wonder why I'm out of bed every
right,
day.
right.
So, yeah,
Was it a lot of people just looking at you, I would imagine, with like, oh God, there she is. Like you can almost hear, I wonder if
for
she's
sure.
okay. I wonder what's
Or
going
how are
on.
you doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
You have to re-explain yourself and check in 1,000 times
yeah. I
right,
think that
all the
I
time.
think that people, I mean, I like to give a lot of grace for people because we're not taught how to grieve, and we're not taught how to um, help people grieve or
right,
communicate with people that are grieving. So I think that makes it such an awkward space for everybody, is
right.
to try and navigate that, that elephant in the room, so to
Yeah.
speak.
No,
You
you're
know,
absolutely right. I mean, what do you say? And if you say nothing, it's like you're not being
right,
caring.
right.
What is the right thing to say? Hey, it must suck. I mean, I don't know. What do you say? And I remember, I don't know if I ever told you this part because it was very trivial at the time, but I was working with Cintas. We had done a big acquisition. I was in Denver when all of this went down, and this acquisition was tricky in that it just the culture wasn't the best at the company we bought, and so the employees weren't like jumping for joy necessarily, right? It was just sort of Big Brother getting bought out by Bigger
Mm,
Brother, kind of, and I had 100 and something people at like a Holiday Inn in some suburb of Denver, and the only time I turn my phone off is for those kinds of things because I had to like be on like a stage talking to people, had a full like presentation and everything. And when I turned my phone back on, there were like 30 missed calls and like 15 voice messages or something, mostly all from Shannon. But what was weird was our house in Arizona, hours before Drew's death, flooded,
mm.
had like a
You're like,
water leak
what?
and flooded. So it started with, urgent call. Our house is flooding. Like we have 2 inches
Right.
of standing water all over our wood floor. And I'm like, okay, well, it's wood floor, right? It's replaceable. And gradually increasing intensity messages around the flooding, right? Like, why won't you
Right.
call me back? The house is flooded. And I'm like, what can I do? And then that turned to tears. I need you to call me back. And I'm like, she's really upset over a flood. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not putting it together, but I'm like, what in the hell's going on? And yeah, it was so wild. And then to get up and see the girls and everything the next day. But so Craig, you guys start dating, and you're in this again, Grass Valley's version of national news, right? I mean, this is the talk of the town, and this is a little while later you guys start dating. What was that like? I mean, what coming into that situation had to be difficult. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what was that like?
So real quick on that, it was mixed because we had such a great connection initially. We'd talk
Yeah,
on the phone for 5 hours and then we go on dates and connect and, different things like that. then there would be the reality check of, okay, well, a family get together, and it was like, oh, well, clearly I'm the F and G,
Right.
not really, no big warm fuzzy hugs. It was weird because it wasn't like across the board. There were some people that were just so stoked that, okay, cool, there's, yay, she's moving, like on to the next thing and all that. So
I feel like
uh,
everybody feels like they are entitled to an opinion pro or con on a situation like that. Like
Totally.
either like good for her, right, great, she's
Right.
living her life, or really?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't
oh,
fit my timeline of what she should be doing, right?
yeah, well, and back to Drew being such a great guy, like I was literally told numerous times that like you are not fucking him, and like what are you even doing in this family, and like take a hike kind of thing.
Right.
And it's like, well, okay. Like I never met Drew.
Right.
So we had very similar social circles. And I feel like we're very kindred people. Like a lot of our likes were very similar. And I feel like we would have got along great. Never met, never hung out. And so I don't have any context. Like I'm not trying to be him. I don't even know what that would be like. So for me, it's not like any kind of assault that, oh, you're not him or you're not whatever. It's like, yeah, clearly I'm not,
Right. You're not
and that's
trying. You
okay.
you weren't trying to be, right? I mean, I
No,
think that
I wouldn't even know how.
I think that one thing I really admire about both of you is you've got really good, I think, personal integrity in that despite, I mean, a lot of people kind of waver in their commitment to their own ideals based on what's going on around them. And I've never seen either one of you be that way. It's sort of like, thanks for your input. You know,
Yeah.
okay. And you'll either accept me or you won't. And I always did get that vibe from you. It's like, well, I know why I'm here. I know I'm here for the right reasons. And even if that means the girls, right? Even if that means Bay and Blake, like, okay, like you'll come around someday, or you won't, right? Like
Yeah.
it's out of my hands, sort of. And it was that kind of your take around it, like I love Lori, I'm here for the right reasons, and if you don't like it, you don't like it, sort of.
Not the last part.
Okay.
It was never, if you don't like, you don't like it, and then, whatever. No, so I was blessed with a very lovely stepmother who kind of showed, how to be cool, but not like in your face. And so I was a step kid. I had low expectations on,
Right.
you like, oh, I'd be like, hey, I got a side hug today.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was, like I just won like, Father of the Year kind of award. No, it was a
Yeah.
side. Yeah. Um, so I knew it was like it was a marathon. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you're a runner. It's like, okay, mile 3 in the race, and you're bonking, and you feel like crap. You're like, whatever. I've got 20 whatever miles to go. It's like this wasn't. I never thought of it as like, oh, this is all it's going to be in this moment. And for me, it's the context that I have is that I can't be him. Nobody can. But what I can do is provide a sense of normal.
Hmm.
So, which, yeah, I'm a stepdad, like lowest rung on the whatever, the bottom of the feeding, chart. I am the lowest rung, right? But what I'm not is a big fucking hole in their lives, which
Right.
left there,
Right.
and having a big guy there, having, we became, it's weird with being a stepdad because you are, in your title is dad, but what you clearly don't have is any, like it takes time to build up like the side jokes, like
Hmm.
the now like Blake can tell like facial quirks if I'm, I like to be, like dry humor and F with
Right.
people. She could read me like that, because she understands my body language. We have context. I know the boundaries of where, what would make her laugh, what, where to stay away from, all that kind of thing. That takes a long time.
Were they
And
tough at the beginning? I mean, were they
no,
vocally tough, or were they just a
never.
little kind of off put?
Distant,
Yeah,
distant going through, so there was always people around. So, the girls always had a friend or a cousin or somebody else around. So they were just doing their thing.
right,
And so it wasn't like we were all just trapped in a room and nothing to say,
right,
so there was a lot going on. And which was good, and grieving's weird. Grieving takes time. How Bailey did it, how Blake did it, how Lori did it, how everyone in their family did it, and community, everybody did it differently. Some people took, I don't know, 14 years or 20 years to get over it, and they're still working on it. Other
right.
people, it's just different. So,
I didn't process my mom dying until, a good 10, 12 years probably after she passed. I mean, I was just mad. And
Yeah.
it's hard to grieve when you're pissed, you know what I mean? Like
Well,
it's
I think for me, it was just like I had to focus on the girls.
yeah,
They were 10 and 13, and I had to make sure that they were okay. And so
yeah,
I kind of put myself on the back burner. And it probably, and I don't think there's ever a you're getting over it. It's
right,
always
well, look,
it's part of your life.
5 minutes
right.
ago, she can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Other times and that's not a normal day.
Yeah.
It's, we're, it's not like we have Costco boxes of Kleenex around her
No.
house.
Sure.
Like Drew is actually, we're cool to talk about him and, celebrated in
Yeah,
this family.
he's still a big part, and to Craig's like thank God it's Craig, is that he allows Drew to still be part of our life. And I think that
Yeah. I mean, I think there's been this on Craig's side, this overwhelmingly conscious ability to create space for that to exist, which I think was necessary to blend these families. Kind of, you guys even, sometimes say like the Ray Ham family is on your email, right? So the Reynolds for Drew and Hamilton for Craig, and it's never been a like, no, that's over, I'm here now. It's always been, part of the same family. But Craig, it's funny. How old were you when you guys met then? 35-ish at the most?
No, well, so we actually had high school
we
classes in high school together.
But I mean, when you guys got together.
34,
yeah
33, 34, 2034.
So most 33, 34-year-old guys that just got done traveling the world, that just landed back in their hometown, aren't signing up for the recently widowed lady with two girls.
No, it
in a-
was
in
not
a-
the obvious
but
choice.
so
But
so
and
what
so
so what was that connection at the beginning that drove it? Because obviously you guys, to say you hit it off is kind of an understatement. I mean, there had to have been something pretty amazing that you were like, wow, I'm in. And
Yeah.
Lori's waving her hands right
It was
now.
me.
She's like,
So,
hello.
so I was actually married when Drew died, and it it imploded shortly thereafter, or right after he had passed and stuff. So I was going through my own, kind of what the hell, how did I get to here, and how do I trust my picker? Because I thought we got along, and so I was going through my own, inventory of what was working, what wasn't,
Sure.
um, and what I didn't want. And and honestly, in watching Lori go through the grieving process, the uh, you can fake out a lot of people of how well you're doing with Instagram, and putting on a show and doing all that kind of stuff. But when your world falls apart and there's nowhere to hide and all that, like, it's pretty fucking real,
Yeah.
and she was as gracious as anybody could be going through that. So it's like, okay, cool. Like, what you're gonna get here. So I admired that a lot, and that's what I was looking for, was somebody to admire, as opposed to somebody that, kind of got, you know, got me excited in other ways.
Yeah. To
Uh,
me, there's always been again, I'm looking at it from, we live states away, and, so this is a very 30,000-foot view, but there's such a level of like shared respect, I think, between the two of you, and there always has been. And that's been, you know, through business, through family, the way you conduct yourselves, and that, I mean, that foundation was huge. When did, so you guys eventually, so coming out of that, you're raising the girls. It's not an overnight thing, but they come around and they're doing well. And I remember, again, just being, I think stuff like that, you either rise to the occasion, right? Where it gets you, and life could be totally different. It could be totally different for your girls now, and now their families. But, you guys both really stepped into it. What were, as you guys got together, your careers took like different turns then. So going back to the career side, talk about some of the stuff you guys did together. And I know you guys are working a lot together now. Really, it's entangled together, but how did it get there? How did work get there?
Well, I think, Craig's been a contractor for 30.
I've been in construction 36 years this month.
And so when we got together, he's a master finish carpenter, and he was doing wood floors.
talk about another kind of perfect alignment thing. You're a widow with a house that's got like missing countertops and torn up floors.
How convenient.
No. When you were swiping right, were you like, is it right when you're selecting someone? I don't know if it's right or left.
And I can cook, Kim.
Yeah.
No cereal for dinner.
You're like, check boxes for the proper mate,
right.
Contractor, breathing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so like I said in the beginning, my house was in full disarray.
Yeah.
And the community kind of rallied together. That first summer after Drew died, we left town a lot because I was like, get me the F out of here. I can't walk in SPD one more time and have somebody look at me the way they looked at me. So we took 18 plane flights that summer.
Wow.
And we just went to people's houses. We traveled Europe. I just was trying to keep them busy and keep me sane. And while I was gone, and even if it was like a weekend trip to the Bay Area or whatever, while I was gone, people in the community were like Hills Flat?
Yeah, so this
called Craig.
Yeah, I used to install wood flooring for a local lumber company, and actually the day after he died, a mutual friend of ours called me and said, "Hey, did you hear that Drew died?" And I was like, "Oh, dang, that was what that accident was." I drove up on that accident and got shuttered around. I didn't know what happened. So I found out that's what happened and who it had affected. And they said, this was literally the next day, "Hey, if we
donate
the material, will you, help? We want to help out. We got to figure out a way to help out and blah, blah, blah." So, so it was, I don't know how long it was afterwards. It wasn't the next day and it wasn't the next week, but it was,
he came and put wood flooring in the house.
That's cool.
And there were other contractors. Somebody came and put in our countertops that were literally sitting in our backyard. And so all of these things, I would come home from these trips and something new would be done.
It was so fun. I'm just having a funny thought in that I remember you used to always have, Lori, you called him like your honey-do list back then for Drew. But Drew wasn't like qualified to much more than I am to like carry them out.
We were super DIYers. Yeah.
Yeah. And so whatever was done, it would be like, don't look at the edges. Don't lean on it too hard. It might fall down, whatever. And so it was always this like hodgepodge. Yeah. Sometimes you guys made look really good, right? Because like you decorate nice around it and stuff. But yeah, it was always
he used to tease me. He would say that our square footage was getting smaller on our house because I would change my mind so often and paint a new color.
Right.
Walls were getting
like an inch of paint coming out.
Yeah. I've always been into design and decorating and stuff. I'm just not a great DIYer.
Sure, me either. I hire folks for that.
Not that much patience. She's like, okay,
I'm like,
let's get it done.
Right.
Let's start, get it done, move on.
I think we're
which
wired the
happened
same
while
way.
the girls were traveling. It was happening while but on that 18th flight coming home, the girls were going to be starting school like in 2 days. And we were coming home from Spain. We went with my sister was in the military and was stationed in Spain. And we were on our way home. And I was just sitting there, tears pouring. And I just was like, I got this. We got this. It was just an epiphany, just a moment that
Where you knew it was going to be okay. You were going to make it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I've always told the girls, there's always somebody in a worse position than we are. Like,
Right.
yeah, it sucks today, but there's always somebody in a worse position. For example, the guy that hit Drew, he chose drugs. He had kids my kid's age, and he chose drugs over his kids and his family. And we at least get to honor Drew. And, like he was an amazing person, an amazing dad. And he would have chosen you 10 times over. And how sad that these kids, their dad lived, he's in prison, but like how sad for them that they lost a dad too, but in a different way.
Were you able to have that compassion for him kind of right away, or was that something you had to get to?
No, I think right away, because I feel like me having that hatred or that, being mad, that wasn't going to do me or the girls any good.
Right.
I had to let that go and have some compassion for him. I don't understand the choices that some people make, but I can have some empathy, I guess, for
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's funny. There's a saying like in recovery, and I'm paraphrasing it, but it's sort of like having resentments or hatred towards someone is like drinking poison yourself, but expecting the other person to suffer, right? And yet, I mean, we're all guilty of it from time to time. Like when we just stay like dwelling or pissed at like one person or one event or one thing,
For sure.
that now we're giving it power by being caught up in it every day,
Right.
I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, the universe is doling out whatever lessons it feels it needs to that guy.
Right. So back to your question about like, it was like a year after Drew had passed and Craig had called me during my busy season. Let's just
We kind of laugh about it because I think I called her
in December, and I was a
was it December?
photographer.
I thought it was like November, October, and she's like, "Yeah, call me next year."
Can you call me in January or February?
It's like call me in January, and it was like a month, or it felt like a month and a half later. I was like, "Really?"
And
Whatever. So I waited till February to call her. I was like, "I'll show you."
It's my
And,
busy season. What does that mean?
whatever. So
anyway, he called me and we talked, and then the rest is history. We were our first date.
Well, I cooked her dinner. I happened to be so lucky as to pick her favorite dinner by chance, and
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he came over and cooked dinner
What?
for the girls and I. They were like, "This is weird."
You're weird. What are you doing here?
Did you guys know pretty early on that, I mean, I guess that might be an individual and not a joint question, but I'll ask Lori first. I mean, did you know pretty early on that like, wow, like this might be a long-term or lifetime kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I had gotten married so young before, and I think by the time I was in my 30s, I was like, you kind of know what you want and what
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go to the bars and find a guy, and
Right.
obviously in Nevada County, there's probably few and far between.
Yeah, there's like the same 12 guys.
Lucky me,
Yeah.
I got two in a lifetime. Like
Sure.
not too many people get that. So for me, yes, I did know right away because I knew what I liked and what I didn't like, and he was showing me what I liked.
Same thing
I
for you, Craig. Did you know out of the gates that this was going to be, go the distance or a distance?
Yeah. So you're talking to a guy that just was newly divorced, and
Right.
again, my confidence level was shaken.
Sure.
But no. So I mean, we literally were having 3-4 hour phone conversations, and dates, and the spark was definitely there, like immediately. So I mean, from the moment she kissed me on the first date, um, that I
So
knew.
sweet. So after that, or so as you guys are dating, are you a full-time contractor at that point? Like that's how you're making a living? And
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay, and then Lori, you're working at the dental office, doing photography on the side, probably hustling, trading cards online or whatever the hell else you were doing.
Still
I
more
I
photography
say
too.
that jokingly, but I admire it. I mean, if I ever had to pick someone that was going to have success as an entrepreneur, I would have picked you because you really don't know quit. So it was like, okay, if this doesn't work, I'll try this. If this doesn't work, I'll try this. If this doesn't work, I'll try this. And you did. I mean, I feel like you tried a lot of different things. When did you start finding your niche, do you feel like, from a
I,
work or business standpoint?
yeah, I think for my whole life, I've been interested in design and homes and shopping, like all like design. I think,
Yeah.
um, and I wanted to go to fashion school out of high school, but you get married and have kids soon. That kind of changes that trajectory. Anyway, so Craig was doing construction and he wanted to flip houses.
I was a flipping.
You were flipping.
Yeah, flipping before you got into real estate.
Yeah. So then
So
he
we
was
had
like,
flipped one. Well, the house that I lived in, we lived in two different houses.
oh yeah,
So we sold that, and then the house that she and Drew lived in together.
we finished
We had
it.
always said, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if we could find another house just like this, but on like more land?" Literally, like I don't know, a month later, one popped up seven. I swear it was like seven houses up, and so we
Yeah.
bought that, sold the other house. So we kind of were flipping our own, and then
And then we had Boone, and
Yeah.
so we have a 16-year-old Boone, and
By the way,
I
you know what's funny about that now, especially with us living in New York, where I'm making up the average age, but I would say the average age of people have kids is like 35, which is, you were probably what, 38 or something when.
37.
Okay.
37.
So, but but because we all started so young and started together, it was like,
You were like,
Lori's
what?
having a kid?
how could she even do that?
Is that possible? I mean, you were only like 37, but probably 36 when you got pregnant, right? And
Right.
it just seemed like so crazy because the girls were already like what, 16 by then,
17 and
17.
14.
17 and
Yeah.
14 when Boone was born. Yeah, crazy.
But you guys
Crazy.
wanted to have a kid together.
Yeah, because Craig
Yeah.
didn't have any kids, and I
Yeah.
was like, I was like, oh gosh, well, my clock is ticking.
Yeah.
We better hurry up. So then came Boone. But Boone was born, and I didn't want to work the 9 to 5 dental anymore. And so when he started school, and a mutual friend of ours is a broker at a real estate office, and we were buying and flipping houses anyway, and I was like, and Craig was like, you should get your real estate license. And I was like, I'm 40 at this point, like I'm gonna really change careers at 40.
I think it's funny that you're giving resistance on changing careers, but you'll go ahead and pop another kid out like
Right?
15 years after your last one, right?
So I called Diane, our friend, and said, hey, if I got my real estate license, would you hire me? I'm old. She said absolutely, because again, like I said, I immerse myself in community. I love our community. I love design and homes, and like it just all seemed to fit, and we were flipping houses anyway. So I got my real estate license at 40.
Yeah, it's so fun. I mean, it's such a perfect fit for you, and looking back on it, we worked together for a while. You worked with me at Cintas, and it's so clear now looking back at every other thing to me that you've done. You just didn't have a big enough vehicle to, you know what I mean, or the right vehicle. To really like express yourself. Like you did awesome with me at our work, but it wasn't a big enough job for you to like show what you could do. You know what I mean? And maybe I think I kind of knew it then, but hindsight 2020, right? It's like you just didn't real estate is so perfect for you because it is community, it is design, and it's very entrepreneurial, right? Like you're going to make what you put into it. And
Right.
you had success right out of the gate with that, didn't you? Pretty much.
Well, I mean, the first house I sold was ours,
Okay. So there you go.
which is okay.
It counts.
I'm her best client.
It's my worst client. And then, I mean, I kind of doubled and tripled every year since I started. So I just like since I was 15 years old, I just jump in and
Yeah.
I go hard and I work hard. I was a kid that I was like, oh, I'm going to quit my 9 to 5 job so I can work real estate and pick my hours. And really, as a real estate agent, you're working 24/7.
Sure.
So yes, I could pick my hours. Yes, I could go on vacations and do that kind of stuff. But when I'm not going on field trips with the kids or on vacation, I am 24/7.
Right.
And
I think it gives you flexibility of space. Like you're not sitting at a desk, but not necessarily of time, right?
Sure.
I mean, because you got to get back to people and you got to be online and you got to, do all of that. Was getting into commercial real estate really when I mean, I know you guys did some flips together and stuff like that, but was your entry into commercial real estate, which I think has been 10 or 12 years ago, was that
16
really?
years.
Oh, that long?
Boone had just been born.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
He was-
wow.
We actually at the signing, Boone was in a little car seat as an infant
Yeah.
of like
Our first.
3-4 months old.
Did you guys
How-
know that would be the first of many, or did you just have an opportunity on a building and you thought like, let's roll the dice?
Yeah.
It was a flip that we made like 150 grand, and it was like, all right, we have 2 options here, or a couple of options. We either do something with this, or it's going to end up in, we're going to blow it. Well, it'll be a pool in the yard. It'll be some house, or some cars, some clothes, a trip, and then 150 is done. And the first one we bought was on a private note for 15 years. So
the owner carried it. So we did a 1031 with the 150 that we made on a house that we flipped.
but we had our own money into it, so we had like 500 grand into it,
Yeah.
and so it was going to be paid off in 15 years. It was going to be like 11,000 a month or something, and it was like, cool, so there's retirement, so let's
Right.
delay gratification, let's do something, and see if basically there's not a lot of retirement in either one of our businesses, so it was like,
Yeah.
all right, let's do that, and that's how we got into it.
But also, again, I think it goes back to building relationships too. We were able to build a relationship with this property owner that, was able to carry the papers for us. Otherwise,
Right.
we wouldn't have been able to get a loan on it, or, so it kind of snowballs into that, building relationships and, doing hard money loans and doing that kind of stuff in order to get us to the position that we were in. We can't take credit for a lot of all the buildings that we have. There was people behind that. There were relationships behind those to get us to where we are now. So.
Yeah, well, and I also think there's been and again, I think this goes back, Lori, to what I was talking about knowing you earlier, where it's like, I'll try photography, I'll try this, I'll try this. When you get a hard money loan on a commercial property and you've never owned commercial before, I mean, you got to have a lot of faith in yourself. I mean, you got to, you're paying more money than you want to. I mean, maybe not for the purchase of the property, but for the money itself, right? The interest rates and all of that.
Right.
And yeah, there's got to be a certain amount of faith before. I mean, were you guys was it an oh shit moment, or was it, no, this is going to happen. Like, we're going to do okay.
Every building we've bought is a no shit moment.
Okay.
She was quite clear I was insane, and like, so this building, most of them are special when I buy them.
Yeah.
It came with people in it, and some of these people, I got a call from a friend who's on the police department, narcs squad, and he's like, yeah, hey, so we're gonna do a bust
On your building.
This guy back in number 5, just a heads up, he's dealing heroin out of your building. If you could get him out of there before that, it would really be good, and the urine bottles, that one had 13 soda liter urine bottles, not the small ones, because people were too lazy to walk to the bathrooms, and
Wow.
a cooler full of urine, like a large.
The grosser than gross, he likes those buildings
I
because
don't.
then he can make them pretty.
I say, it's not that I like them, but I'm
Everybody else is walking by
frugal.
them.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no money in the pretty fluffy
Right.
it's great if you've got $1 bazillion and you're like, oh, I'll take a 3%, 4% return. I'm happy with that. But, in reality, the uglier it seems, almost to a point, the better.
Yeah.
Sure.
And he, created relationships with hard money guys as well by doing construction and wood floors and finished carpentry. He got to know a lot of amazing people, and one of which is one of our. I mean, he wouldn't even we'd be like, oh, we found a building. He's like, go ahead, get it. Like,
Sure.
It's like, do you want to see it? And he's like, no. At this point, I think we've done how many deals with him now? 12 deals with him now, and he trusts us. Again, that relationship building, and that's gets us to the
What
next.
did you guys learn in working together in this way? Because now you're working together, both in a professional capacity, like you each have your lane of like what you're going to handle on a deal. The finances are embedded. The emotions are there, whether you're feeling great or you're not feeling great. Was that an easy transition for you guys, like to get into, or did it have its bumps?
I think every relationship and every deal has bumps.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're going over budget, you're going past time. Design wise, he sees it this way. I don't always see it how he sees it. So, we've gotten over the years to mesh our ideas together.
Well, I think the other part of it is not being mad at the other person that they're not doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because I can't do what she does, and I wouldn't be able to do what we do without what she does. And reverse, like what I do, like we wouldn't even do it because she wouldn't be interested in doing it. So,
Sure.
But both of them are totally key components. So and what's nice is over the duration is that the trust level of, okay, you've got you. I trust. I don't have to manage you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, he'll be like, I'm thinking about doing this, and I'm like, great, do that.
Right. Well, I think we talked about it earlier. I mean, I think that's where that foundation of mutual respect comes in too, right? Where it's you don't necessarily have to win every argument, right? I mean, there's times, Shannon and I just went through, we had a project of a house that we're sitting in right now, and we're still having work done to it. And I didn't want to do it to begin with. It was just too much work. But she did, and I trusted her. She wanted it more than I didn't want it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, we'll just go your way. And I think
we're living in one of those too.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm happy now.
No, I mean, sometimes I don't want to say you got to pick your battles, but you got to. I remember early in marriage, at least for us, it would be like, I don't know, let's say one person wants a brown couch and the other one wants a white couch, and it's like, there's this need, or at least there was for me sometimes, to win. You know what I mean? Like, I got to win. And it's like, does it really matter to me that much? Does everything really matter to me that much? And as long as that's reciprocal of like, look, if it really means something to somebody, just let them have it. Right. I mean, is it like yes, it's got to be both ways. Otherwise you're either the trampler or the one being trampled. So you mentioned you did 12 deals with one guy. So how did this one building kind of parlay into, I know you guys have a lot of commercial tenants now and own several properties. Like, was it one funded the next? Did it all of a sudden look like, hey, this is going to kind of become a business, or has it just been just one at a time and they've looked good?
So it started, I did this couple, they not a big house. I did like 10,000 square feet of wood flooring in it, and became friends with them. And we actually we had done another project that was a restaurant, So we, remodeled the commercial space, and we're running a family restaurant there, or part of it. And they would come in as our customers and sit at the bar and eat pizza and talk to us. And this one time he came in and he's like, we're talking, and he's like, hey, if there's anything I could ever do for you, let me know. And I was like, cool, fine, thanks. I will, And then he repeated it. I was either the second or third time, and I was like, so, what do you think? And it's like
he had money to invest, and he knew what Craig was doing, and he was just like, I'll help you. Let me know your next project. Yeah.
And I wasn't, and this my guy wasn't. I wasn't like just his favorite person. Like, he did this in regards with a lot of people. So
when he also, I mean, he's probably good at. He probably had a good picker when it came to like, hey, I mean, it's not guys like that aren't just throwing money around. It's. I trust this person. I think they're going to do a good job. I think I'll make a good return.
And honestly, it wasn't. I don't know that it ever was about business with him. In that regard, he had the portion of his money was devoted towards what we did, and like the type of things we did, with maybe 10%. So he had his investments, and this was just kind of like, funny money to play with on the side, kind of thing. And ironically, they were the last people, if you ran into them on the street, that you would ever assume, had any worth at all.
Sure.
He was an incredibly smart inventor, and but I mean, when I went up to the job site on the first time, like, his wife hopped on a quad and we went racing up through the trees, and she's like 65 years old, and I couldn't keep up with her on a quad. She was ripping so hard and fast, and they got 7 dogs running around and horses, like, they were eclectic. And
cool.
So anyway, so I finally said to him, I was like, well, back to the, hey, if there's anything you ever need, he's like, I said, so we had done a flip, and we were still still had construction lending on it, and we wanted out of that. But this was when the economy really just crapped out. It was 2010, and so there wasn't, nothing was, money wasn't,
nothing was moving.
Yeah. So it was like, cool. So you want to do, come show you this house. And it was a brand new house that I tore down. I bought, like, again, the ugliest house on the lot. It was a tear down. It, was horrible, but it was a great deal. We got it for $67,000 and did a new, 2,000 square foot house there. He came over, looked at it, and long story short, did a private loan on it, and got us out of the big, high percentage construction loan. It's like basically half the payment. So huge for us. And
I think you asked, like, did we take one building and proceeds from that go to the next? But no.
Or even building like a plan. There was never like a plan. It was just
you saw opportunity and you take it.
Well, the next opportunity came up, or we get to a junction, and it'd be like, well, let's see.
But once you start collecting or keeping commercial real estate, there's no funds to go to the next building. So we kept our first one, and then the opportunity presented itself multiple times, and those times, each time we had to get creative with the financing on there. Obviously our income was better, but we still needed, some of the, again, he likes the ugly ones, so some of them aren't financeable, so you're gonna need hard money. And then like, for example, our little cottages were not lendable. We had to buy them with hard money and then fix them up and then refinance them after they have foundations or roofs.
But it is really so cool that you guys both have this skill set. Lori, you with real estate, Craig, you with contracting, and then both of you together in your marriage being strong enough to, go through what other people would call, I mean, there's some people who are like, I would never go through a remodel again as a married couple. You know what I mean? Like one remodel. on their
Right.
house, and you guys are just like living in it all the time, like on these buildings, and you've gotten used to it. It sounds like the recipe for you guys is finding severely distressed assets that no one else is probably paying that much attention to because they're just too hard to wrap your brain around, right?
Well, yeah, like the bank building. How many square feet is that?
10 and a half
10 and
thousand
a
square
half,
feet.
and it was vacant, and nobody could put a vision on 10,500 square feet of what to do with it,
It's
in
so beautiful now, by the way. I love
yeah,
that
back in
building.
the day, it was a bank. So
Yeah.
obviously, and then from there, it was an insurance company after that. And so, but anybody now, and we know, you have to break it up into smaller chunks. People don't want 10,000 square feet. They want
Right.
900 square feet,
Sure.
and so Craig could see that. He could see making like the little indoor mall and breaking it up into chunks. So, but not everybody has that vision,
Yeah. One
Well,
thing that I think you guys both do so well, I'm sure this is a conscious like thought together, but I got to tour a lot of your buildings, 4, 6 weeks ago, something like that, when we were out there, and there are these old buildings that are completely redone by these guys, but with a foot fully still in their history, still honoring the bank building, still the bank building. It still says the bank building on the outside. It's got the vaults. It's got, like you're kind of walking through something historic. And I think what you guys have done, I mean, that was the other part that impressed me. It was like, okay, you guys went through some of the most difficult circumstances you could. Craig going through a divorce, Lori going through being a widow, having kids, getting together, going through all this to making it through and starting to thrive, which is great, to then this point where you're thriving, I think, while helping your community, really. I mean, when I walk through and look at the vitalization of our old hometown of Grass Valley, I'm like, you guys have your name all over it. I mean, there's so many buildings there with your personality and your hard work, which is amazing. Was that, I don't know if there's a question in there, but is that a conscious thing that you guys try to do in your design, is to try to preserve, I guess, what it was? I mean, when you look at these commercial buildings.
Um, yes, it's a balance of what it was, honoring what it was, but kind of creating what it could be.
Yeah.
So
making it
'cause
more relevant to today.
I'm not like this old house where we're like dipping each thing and stripping the paint and restoring it.
Sure.
That doesn't really excite me, but creating spaces is basically what we do, and creating, and inside of those spaces is like what could happen, oh, like the tap house has got this amazing patio, and it's like, oh, I saw, that patio was filled with pigeon crap and trash and, wired off from homeless people in our own, all the rough crap. But it was like, man, wouldn't this be cool if this could be a spot where people could hang out on a nice day, windows open, drinking, and having lunch and like meeting friends.
Yeah.
So, and that's what it is now. And it's fun to go back to these places because,
Oh
nobody
yeah, to
live.
be sitting in the vision that you had, and now it's real. I mean, I think that's awesome. So, where does this go for you guys now? I mean, Craig, you said you're 36 years now in contracting. Lori, you've been killing it at real estate for what, 15 plus years now?
13, 14.
13?
Mhm.
You're 2 years away from Boone probably going off to college, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what's next? Are you still swinging a hammer in 5 years? Are you guys buying more commercial stuff? Are you selling all your stuff? I mean, what are you guys thinking? Or are you taking it as you have, like kind of one day at a time? Like, what does it look like for you guys?
Well, I mean, for me, obviously we have 2 more years of Boone in high school. And now we have grandkids, 5 of them. So,
Adopted one.
well, yeah, 4 with the bonus one. So that makes fun.
Yeah, no. I'm like,
4 and 1
Uh,
is 5, technically.
yeah,
So.
yeah. Um, so we want to spend more time with them. We have property in Oregon. We want to go spend time there. We're in the middle of renovating our newest property in downtown Grass Valley. The front part's all done with the tenants in that, but we're working on 4 apartments right now, and we're waiting on permits. So, you get into positions of building, and you have to have patience, and you have to know that you're going to go over budget. It's going to take twice as long. So we're sitting in that right now, which Craig will be happy when that's all done. But I would say next, we don't know. We don't sit idle. People are like, I thought your last house was your final house, and I'm like, I can't say that.
I'll never say that.
Yeah,
I
we
just
love
told Shannon the other day, I think that's a weird statement to make. Like you hope people, they'll have to bury me in this house. And I'm like, you're 50 years old. What are you talking about? Like, really? Do you want the whole
Right.
rest of your life to be that predictable?
Right.
You know?
I like to have a home base for the kids, but I don't get attached to homes. I think, where your people are is where, and if it's a different house, or, it is.
So you guys, you see spending your time, it sounds like, with a little more flexibility though. Yeah. In terms of the ability to, with family and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, that's the goal. I mean, it never has been the goal about stuff. Like I don't have this weird illusion of, oh, I'm going to buy the town and I want to take it over. And that wasn't ever it. The goal and the properties, it was the cash flow, which would create freedom. So if it doesn't feed that goal, then it doesn't fill our cup. It's like that. Otherwise, we're just managers of these things, honestly. Until we pass, and then our kids manage them, and then they sell them or whatever. So it's not like you actually own these things. Like you just get to caretake them, and hopefully, if you do a good job, they, are good investments, which give you good returns.
Like you said, they stay in your family, but we come and go. That building's still gonna be there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is kind of a bigger question, but from like the outsider kind of looking in at your lives, and you guys know I've spent a lot of time in the Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard world, all of that. Spent a lot of time figuring out my own life and like what is fulfillment and stuff like that. And when I look at you guys, because there's some people that do really well in a particular area, and a lot of times at the sacrifice of another, right? Like the workaholic business dude that made a lot of money, but his kids are all messed up or whatever, right? Like or has a shitty marriage or whatever. I feel like you guys are like checking a lot of the boxes. Do you feel fulfilled right now? Is there any part of your life that you guys feel like, man, I really need to get this right, or I really need to go after this more? Or are you guys feeling pretty good about things right now? And it's okay to feel pretty good about things,
Yeah. Well, so the nice part about what we've done is it's really gratifying. Like I don't regret, putting all the energy and everything into that. But that being said, is this what I want to do for the next 30 years? Like,
right.
36 years is a good long time to do something. And, my mantra lately is like, I'm ready for a new adventure. I'm ready for a new game. I don't need to put another flooring in. I don't, anymore.
Right.
I don't need, like, I'm not compelled to. And so now it's like this interesting sort of dynamic of trying to, there's a lot of figuring to do in that, because kind of, what we want to do next, is different, and how we got to here and what was brought us success to here doesn't necessarily equate to success in the next chapter. So it's a bit of a reinventing that we're, kind of endeavoring, as we speak, because we're kind of our, best assets and our greatest enemies, because she can't sit still. I have this problem of buying properties, and like the adrenaline rush that comes with these big things. And So that doesn't equate to slowing down very well. And so, people laugh at us when they go, oh, that's your last one. Ha ha. You said that 3 properties ago.
Yeah.
Right.
In that regard. So it's,
nobody can figure us out, and we can't figure us out.
yeah.
I think it's funny because like if I were in your shoes and I had the same skill sets as you guys, I think even if I wanted to slow down, it's just like every now and then there's something where it's like, well, I was going to slow down, but this one is like, yeah,
exactly.
because you can do it. Like, because
the one that we just bought was the agent came to us because she knows that, the properties that we've done on Mill Street alone. She was like, you have to buy this property. And we had looked at it years ago, and the owner just really wanted too much, but he had passed away. So it was his people that were selling it. And it wasn't going to make it through another winter with the roof that it was leaking. And she was like, you guys have to buy this. We put an offer in and we backed out 3 times before finally we're laying in bed. And I said, what's the most you'll pay for it? And so Craig said his number. And so I called her the next day and we're like, this is our end all be all.
Which was $250,000 less than the asking price.
Yeah. So your hesitation paid off in a way, or your patience.
Well, it was like, so if we're going to do this, what could be the perfect scenario? What would be the financing scenario? What would be the price?
Right.
What would all this? And when it kind of all lined up, it was like, oh shit, I guess I got to do another one. I really didn't want to.
Well, it's nice to come at things with the approach of like, I don't need to do this. Right. If I'm going to do this, this is what's going to make sense. And there's not a lot of emotion attached to that. It's like either yes or no. Like if you can't do it, you can't do it. We'll move on. Right. But you don't have to do it. And so, well, I think that's awesome. I wanted you guys on the show because I really am just so impressed with both of you and really the collective you and the whole Raham family and what you guys have done. It's just amazing. And when I ask about fulfillment, I ask it because, again, I talk to people all the time that older than you guys are have to figure out that they were maybe chasing the wrong thing, that they were out of balance, that that the road to fulfillment really went through, contribution and love and service and things like that, and I think you guys have found a way to blend. And then I know other people who have spent all their time on the spiritual journey, right? Hiding from any level of success. And I feel like you guys have found that ability to kind of weave the whole thing together. And whatever you guys decide to do, and whenever you decide to speed up or slow down, I'm sure it's going to be the right choice. And I'm super stoked to be spending a week with you guys in Mexico later this year. So
us too. We're excited. Yeah, it'll be super fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for being on, guys.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
All right. You got it. Take care.
Bye.